In these examples, I want to look at assigning strings to variables and how to convert a string value to an integer and how to ask the user to input data. In this first case here, we have two variables, and each we've hard-coded in there that the value will be 1, 2, 3. So in the first one, we have a variable name. It's my underscore string. And if you want to put a space in a variable name, you would use the underscore. And then we're setting that equal to 1, 2, 3 in single quotes. Since it's in single quotes, it will be treated as text or string. And technically, string can include just text or text and numbers or just numbers. So it means it's treated basically like text. So in this case, if you have the numbers in quotation marks, then it's going to consider that as text and it cannot be used in a calculation. The second one is my integer, so it's going to take 1, 2, 3 in quotation marks, and the integer function, int, with the parentheses, and you put your argument inside for what you want to convert to integer. So in this case, it's going to convert the text 1, 2, 3 to the integer or the numeric 1, 2, 3. So then it could be used in a calculation. And then it prints my string and my integer, and it looks the same from the output, but technically in the system it knows that this is a string and that this is an integer or a numeric value. Let's look at converting user input and how to ask the user for input. If you want to ask the user for input, you're going to use the input with the single or the parentheses next to it. In this case, we're going to ask the user to enter a wage, and we're going to input that, convert it to an integer, and assign the value that the user has entered to the variable named wage. And then we're going to calculate the new wage and print it. So we're going to print enter in wage, and we want to keep whatever's next entered or printed on the same line. So then we're going to say wage is equal to the integer of whatever is input by the user. So we've prompted the user with enter wage, and we're waiting for the user to input something. So the user is going to enter 8. It's going to convert that to an integer and then hold that value in the wage variable. Now, one note I want to make with this, which is an important note. Whenever you ask the user to enter something, it is automatically going to count that and assume that it's a string or a string literal. So what you'll have to do is take whatever the user has entered, if you want it to be a number, and you're going to have to change that and convert it into an integer, which is a number format. When the user enters 8, that's going to be considered the input here, and it's going to convert it to an integer, and the wage will then be 8, the number 8. Then we're going to calculate the new wage. We're just adding 10 to it, and then we're going to print new wage as text, and then the next argument is new wage, the value of the variable. So you can see that it's going to print that here. In the third example, we have variables, and again we have one for the inputting the information from the user, converting it to an integer, and then printing out the values from the calculation for the salary. So this one's done in a little bit different way. Again, you can do a lot of these calculations and input and printing in different ways. We're going to assign the variable value of hours as 40, variable weeks as 52, and these are numbers, They don't have quotation marks around them. And then hourly wage, and again, that's got technically a space in between for readability, so we put the underscore there. Now, what we're going to do is we've got our input statement. We're going to input hourly wage as our text, our prompt to the user. We're going to input that, wait for the user to respond. So here we've got that printed, wait to the user to respond and add and enter 12. The user enters 12, that's converted to an integer because remember anything the user enters is text. It's going to convert that to an integer so that it can be used in a calculation, and that value is assigned to the variable hourly wage. Then we're going to print salary is, and this time we're just going to go ahead and put the calculation here for our salary, and we're going to calculate that, and it will enter that into the output. The other thing you could do here is say salary equals hourly wage times hours times weeks, and then here instead of putting the calculation, you would need to enter the salary is and then the name salary for the variable. So you could have done this different ways. So it's got two examples here of the output with different numbers. So please understand the conversion to integer, and that you need to do that when the user inputs text that should be used in a calculation or needs to be considered as an integer or numeric format, and that you can use that input function in order to input values from the user.